Matt Lenehan Boxing Social in association with Empire Fight Store and R Kings were here. Big Mo and a big event.
Yes.
A big moment, as you say.
There you go. Hey now.
Yeah, and I'm taking a little phrase from you, but look, Whittaker Cameron, it's attracted so much attention since the first fight. The build-up, the contracted rounds.
Yep.
How excited are you for this weekend? It's some night here in Birmingham. Birmingham's becoming a bit of a hotbed now for big fights.
Yeah, I think, look, right now, specifically British boxing and all of boxing for sure, but British boxing I think is in a really good place because we're starting to see the next crop of potential stars come through. Ben Whittaker is obviously one of those people. I mean, you look at what happens with him on social media, I mean, the numbers are kind of insane, so it's no surprise to me that the fight has become what it is. I think that you add in little bits of drama about the rounds or about how the first fight ended and things like that. Like, it all adds to itself. And now we've arrived at a big fight that's also on a different time slot than usual with Easter Sunday, so I think it'll bring a lot of different viewers in. I think it's all coming together really nicely, and I actually think this is going to be one of the bigger fights of the year.
What do you make of the build-up to the fight? Obviously, I think there's a bit of a narrative of obviously the questions for Ben Whittaker. Was this the best Liam Cameron can produce, or was he underestimated? What do you make of all the sort of the narratives running into this fight?
Look, I mean, narratives basically make boxing. I appreciate narratives. I think that narratives is what makes this sport so great, is you have a variety of storylines that people can attach themselves to. That's not really common in other sports. With most other sports, there's a set structure, set schedule. This person plays this person, or this does this, and then kind of everything follows the same general narrative. In boxing and fighting and combat sports as a whole, you have a handful of narratives that people will attach onto because they support one person or support one show or whatever. So that's really what's made this so big, is you have a camp of people that believe that Ben was winning the fight. You have a crowd of people that thought that Ben was losing the fight. You have a crowd of people that thought that Ben went over intentionally. You have a crowd of people that don't think it happened intentionally, and that's ultimately what leads to where we're at now. So,
is the pressure on Ben for this fight, do you believe?
I do. Yeah, I absolutely think the pressure's on Ben. I also think that he knows that. Like, I think there's no way to go through all of the backlash that the public has given him over the last, really, I mean, since he started. A lot of people don't like his style. A lot of people don't like the flash. A lot of people don't like who he's fought or whatever complaints they have. So he's been in this picture for a while now. And so I think when you see what happened from the first fight, I do think the pressure's on Ben. But I also think that there's pressure on Liam as well, because a lot of people now are becoming Liam Cameron fans for the first time because they may or may not like Ben Whittaker.
Which is great as well, because Liam's had his own battles in the sport. I think many people will say he was unfairly treated with regards to his case many years ago. He got a 4-year ban for, his story's already told, but he went through a lot in life, and he's now making more money than he could have ever dreamed of, and it won't change him as a person, which is a good thing.
I do, and I like Liam a lot. Obviously, this is my first time ever working with Liam. Got to meet him briefly in the hallway beforehand. I try not to get in the fighters' ways. They're cutting weight. They're not here to talk to me, so I try to keep my distance where I can. But Liam's a great guy, and I think that he has a great story, and I'm happy that he's getting paid. I'm happy that he's getting paid maybe a little bit extra because of all the things that have happened. Who knows? But I'm happy for both fighters. I think that it's a good matchup. I think it's a compelling matchup of not just styles, but also personalities. Personalities, they're kind of different people, at least how they show themselves to the public.
Well, look, we pivot from this fight week straight into one of the biggest, potentially the biggest in British boxing history, Chris Eubank versus Conor Benn. Look, I think we've seen everything and heard everything about the egg slap. I think what's come about more recently are the comments from Senior. Now, we're going to just touch on these briefly. So, he's of an ilk of when certain things, he toes a certain line of discipline and what he thinks is acceptable and what he thinks doesn't. His comments calling, obviously, son a disgrace for what happened with the egg slap. What do you make of this? Because it's almost like it goes beyond the actual fight, this now, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think, look, I'm very close with my father. I treasure father-son relationships a lot. I don't know their relationship. I will never claim to. I've been with Chris briefly here and there. I like Chris. I think I've met Senior once. It's not my place to talk about people's relationships with their family. Truthfully, I don't love how much we're diving into it for this fight, if I'm being completely honest. Like, I don't know how many times Senior has to say that he doesn't like the fight before we stop sticking a microphone in his face. I don't know how many more times we need to ask Chris about his relationship with his father. I mean, I remember in the Piers Morgan interview, he got asked like 4 times. Like, what? My thing is that I understand why the question's there, and I always support media asking questions and diving into whatever they want to dive into. But when you know the answer, and when you know the answer is negative, and you consistently double down on asking it, I don't really see the value in that, because now it's no longer about the fight at that point. It's about a father-son relationship, which is completely irrelevant to the fight that we're going to watch. I don't know.
No, it's an interesting point of view, and I completely get what you're saying, and it touches on a different angle. The fight itself, though, yes. Let's be honest. Eddie Hearn says I believe the quote was in mind, that he beats Chris Eubank Jr. inside 4 rounds and knocks him spark out, which says to me Conor's going to come like a bull in a china shop. Yeah. And obviously Chris Eubank Jr. being the bigger man, but he does have this rehydration clause, although he has been fighting at that weight, but he does make sure he can't go too far over. Yeah. What do you make of it as a fight itself?
So I understand why some boxing purists or maybe some old school fans don't like this fight. Maybe it's the weight disparity, whatever. I love this fight. I think it's sick. I'm going to be watching it. Wish I could be there. I think it's going to be an electric fight. I love rivalries in this sport, regardless of what the rivalry is. And whether you like Conor, dislike Conor, like Chris, dislike Chris, you can't deny that this is a rivalry that's bigger than a lot of fights in the sport. And this sport needs big fights. We can't just rely on the smaller 10K, 5K shows. We need the 60K shows. We need the big pay-per-views. We need these fights, and this is one of them. And I actually love the fact that it's not for a title. People are saying, well, why are we celebrating this fight? It's not for a title. It's not this, not that. I'm sorry. Is that a bad thing? It's a bad thing that right now in boxing we have a non-title fight that can sell 60,000 and be a Sky Sports pay-per-view. That's a bad thing. It's a bad thing that we have stars that don't have a belt. To me, that's a good thing. To me, that shows the depth of the sport. I think it's a good thing this fight is happening.
I want to ask as well, yesterday it was confirmed in screenshots, in messages, Chris Eubank Jr. made good on his promise and said, I've got 50 grand to one side and it will be split between all them undercard fighters. Regarding whatever his reasoning is, because a lot of people said, he's just talking, he's just saying, but he's followed through. Yes. I saw the list of names on there, we saw the tweets. Yes. What do you make of that? Because that is, it's a nice gesture when he didn't really have to do anything.
Look, I don't know Chris super personally, but I've been around him. To me, Chris is a nice guy. I think Chris knows who he is. That's why he calls himself the bad guy and things like that. Look, I like what he did. I thought it was a nice gesture. He didn't have to do it. That's money out of his own pocket that he sent to all those fighters that he's not affiliated with, that he didn't have to do it for or anything like that. They're not on the card this time. I appreciate that he did it. I think Chris, in a weird way, I actually think the boxer Ben Shalom Chris situation works great because Ben is allowing Chris to lead, which Chris wants to do. Chris wanted to sit closer in a press conference. Ben said, great, sit there. Ben's not going to get in the way of Chris being Chris, and that's why Chris has been fantastic this whole build-up, because he's said what he wanted to say, he's gotten across the points he wanted to get across, he's done the things that he wanted to do. Were some of them maybe aggressive? Sure. Whether you like the egg slap or don't, whatever. But look what's happening now. We can't be mad at this. There's more money into this fight than there ever has been before, and a big reason why is because Chris has been great in the build-up.
100%. Last one from me.
Yeah.
Got to ask you this because I know you're a purist and you love all the fights.
Yes.
But Taylor Serrano 3, I was there for the press conference. Jake Paul's doing incredible things, especially for the female side of the sport. He's doing good things for boxing, I think, in general, no matter what you think of him. And look, that's a conversation for another day. But what do you make of this fight getting announced and getting put on at MSG? The first one was great. The second one was great. Yeah. Third one, surely we're expecting the same again.
Look, I've obviously worked with Jake, did the Tyson fight, been around Jake, been around his team, been around MVP. I like them a lot. I think they're smart people. They have a good young team that understands a lot about social media and marketing and things like that. Obviously, Jake is, one of the godfathers of social media in our modern time. What I like about Jake, and the reason why I don't put Jake into a lot of the other categories of influencers, is because when you look at when he fights, all of the other fighters on his card, in the eyes of purists, is that pure boxing. There's not influencers on it, maybe occasionally one or two, but you look at the trickle down, if we want to use that term, Jake gives that to his cards. Taylor Serrano 2 was the most watched women's sporting event in U.S. history. 50 million people watch that fight. Without Jake Paul, 50 million people don't watch that fight. That's just a fact of the matter. So whether you like Jake, whether you dislike Jake, what you can't deny is he puts other people on with him. Yeah, Jake's going to get his. He's going to get his bag. He's going to do his fight. But he knows how to spread the wealth, and he knows how to share the wealth. I like what he's doing for women's boxing. We have a lot of great women boxers right now. I actually, in my opinion, I think right now might be the strongest point women's boxing has ever been, not just from a publicity standpoint, but from a depth standpoint.
Comfortable.
Exactly. Katie Taylor's still fighting. Amanda Serrano's still fighting. Clarissa Shields is still fighting. Those are right there. That's 3 of the best ever. And they're still fighting. Savannah Marshall, still fighting. You have Caroline Dubois. You have Lauren Price. You have Michaela Mayer. You have Tiara Brown. You have Skye Nicholson. You have a lot of depth in women's boxing. I appreciate that there's multiple promotions. It's not just MVP. Boxer's done it a lot. Matchroom's done it a lot. It's going to take all the necessary people to get women's boxing across. Right now, there is a huge push for compensation for women's athletes. It's a huge topic of conversation in America. Well, guess what? If there's one sport that's leading the charge on women's equality in sports and compensation, it's boxing, because the boxers know they are the sole reason why they get paid. If they fight well, they get paid. Amanda Serrano is about to become the highest paid female athlete. Katie Taylor's right behind. They both made millions in their last fight. Multiple millions. That's the conversation about women's compensation. Look what the boxers are doing in a sport that's even more dominated by male than the other sports. And it's because they're not saying, we need this, we want this. They're going, we're going to get in there on Netflix in front of 50 million people, and we're going to put on the best fight of the night, which they did. And now they're both getting paid a hell of a lot of money for the trilogy. Good on you.
Big Mo, perfect sign-off. We'll catch up after this fight, and appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. See you guys on Sunday.
Thank you.